Hello, Life Saga TV. Welcome, and welcome to Life Saga TV. Let's go to it. We're just starting, and let's go for our analysis today. So again, I was quite busy. Even by 7:30, I wouldn't have gone on. Though I realized that when you vary these times, you lose some of the audience. And I'll try so much to be doing my lives at 7 something, because once it is 8, people have slept. Some are actually sleeping since tomorrow is still work day. But let's hope for the best. All right. So, guys, it is very sad sometimes as citizens struggle, as salary increment becomes a problem. Unfortunately, there's a bag of money somewhere in the State House, guys. And of course, we heard the other day Gachagua revealing that the groups that go to the State House are being given 10,000 each. I'm just imagining how citizens will be selling their votes through 10,000 shillings. Can 10,000 shillings reform your life and change you? You know? Because I trust and I believe there is no way somebody will go to State House like 50 times, you know? I was also looking at this fact of giving 1 million shillings to the footballers. You know, this is sometimes what makes professionals not to really focus on their work very well. Can you imagine somebody having worked a whole 10 years and they have never touched 1 million shillings? 1 million Kenyan shillings, they have never touched it. And I don't mean we are envious, but then I was just looking at these calculations. A footballer just goes on, and because they have scored in one game, they get 1,000 shillings and they are promised a house. Whereas those people whose money is being deducted every month from salary in the name of housing allowance or whatever it is, housing whatever, they cannot have an ability of even having a loan, a loan which can be paid in 2 years. They have to sweat for 8 years. Susan, hi, welcome to the board, and like the video for me. So when you look at this kind of imbalances, I'm very much sure that in Kenya, with time, people are going to disregard some professions, right? Some professions will be disregarded because you don't see the sense in really committing to them. And even if people will be working in them, I'm not sure the level of commitment people will give to these kind of professions. All right? And it's logic. So thank you, Susan, for coming here. I really appreciate. Please like the video. My sister, thank you so much. Are you from Kenya or maybe which country? You can share with me, because from there we can actually know whether to say wagwan, whether to say hola, whether to say good evening, whether to say habari and all that. So I really appreciate anybody who is coming online. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video, share, and let's grow together. So the bitter reality about Kenya is that sometimes those who work so hard do not earn a lot from whatever they are doing. And sometimes they are disgruntled because you will be forced to stay at work for maybe, let's say, a whole day. But at the end of the day, you just look like you are really someone worth in the society, but the reality is you're not, because how do we measure people? We measure them based on their net worth, right? And of course, your net worth is, they always say it's based on your network. How much network can you attract when you are at the low level in the society? Automatically, you will also attract those who are at the low net worth. You know? Just tell me how many civil servants, especially in teaching and some other professionals, are able to earn maybe let's say within a year, if they are going to buy something even on credit, and then they promise to get 500,000 within 6 months, is it possible? It is not. But I've seen some professions where it is possible to do that. So when you look at the political situation currently, getting information that people are going to State House and in one day they are collecting 10,000 Kenyan shillings. And this is not my word. Let's listen to this guy here and just see how wastage of funds is being conducted in the country. Now tell me, if this is not mismanagement, where exactly did they get money? You can't tell me this is their money. This is the money we have heard it was lost through e-citizen. 16 billion, the ghost school paid, capitation, ghost hospitals paid, you know? It is all that. And I trust that is what is happening, because there is no way you can be really acquiring this money from whichever sources. I don't see. So let's listen to this guy who went to State House and then came out to share. All right.
Jana. So kama pesa inatumika hivyo daily, hii pesa mazee inatokanga wapi? So yangu mimi nimeamua nataka kununulia watoto wa street, niwanunulie mikate wa. So kama pesa inatumika hivyo daily na tulikuwa watu 5,000. Kenya hatuendi vizuri. Jana wale wametulienda State House tulilipwa 10,000 each. Na tulikuwa watu 5,000. So you can imagine tulitumia just 50 million jana. So kama pesa inatumika hivyo daily, hii pesa mazee inatokanga wapi? So yangu mimi nimeamua nataka kununulia watoto wa street, niwanunulie mikate wa kule na yangu. Juu mazee hawatawaifika huko. So Kasongo ni one time bana. Hiyo mtu ni one time. Akikaa another 2 time huyo jamaa atatunyonga hii Kenya tuishi. If pande wanaweza tumia 50 million kuonga watu. We. Sio poa. Sio poa.
Guys, just listen at that. How much money do they have if they can spend 50 million in a day to just give people? And I really don't know why people even collect this money, because I don't trust in superstition, but it is always said, when you use this money, somehow, you will vote for whoever you don't want to. Let's hope that is not what is going to happen, because so many people have been called to the State House of late and they have been given a lot of money, 10,000. And though that is not a lot, but now I'm looking at the common mathematics of a day. How many people can earn 10,000 in a day? I know they are not giving the same group twice or whatever, but can you imagine one person going, then they are given 10,000? Some will be fooled enough to go vote. But I can see some people are coming out and saying one time, I hope whatever they are saying will really be practical, because all the time I've been told sometimes this politicians' money, once you receive it, there is no way to go back. So can you see such information leaking to our ears? What do you expect? Now, today, of course, there was also another information relayed by Margaret Nyakango. Margaret Nyakango actually in the speech indicated that the government is using a lot of money, and it has already used a lot of money from for which is supposed to be allocated towards travel. The travels have been too much. You remember many people complain about the president and their people going so much outside, and now it has reached a level whereby there's no more money for that. And so they have decided to use money meant for development. No wonder, even up to now, schools don't have capitation yet. And so students will be forced to be sent away, whether they are approaching KCSE or not. I'm so sure by weekend you'll be looking at towns and they'll be flowered by uniforms left and right. Be sure of that. Okay? Yeah. So be sure of that. Why lie? Okay? So, I want us to look at some aspects here. I want us to listen to that speech so that you don't say I was lying or something like that. Let's play a script here.
Down to the bone marrow, and with no further ado, let's get after it. Have traveled
much foreign travel, and in a sense, what that means is that we are encroaching on what we should be using for development.
And in case you're wondering what the actual figure is, we are currently bordering on 25 billion Kenya shillings on travel alone.
So can you imagine? From David Wafula's analysis,
personally, I'm not even surprised.
David Wafula gave the figure here. What did he say?
Because I use ClickUp. Here's how I get perfect notes from every meeting. I click this toggle to send my AI.
Prepared manager, that will always lead to disaster. Hata ulete team ya Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, confused manager, enda katikati ya msitu. There is nothing there. All kind of the president implementing things that look like.
Oh, I can't get the figure, but according to David Wafula did an analysis. Let me just check whether he shared the
Ruto
figures.
is finishing Kenya is through misguided expenditures, such as printing fees. Can you believe it when you say that the Ruto administration that we could have sent to represent us? Ama kazi ya ambassador ni gani? Just check out these images.
Yeah, so in the analysis by David Wafula, he was actually checking on the aspect of how much is spent on travels. All right, of course, we've had already Gloria Oroba shared with us how much one person is paid when they go out there using our taxes. You know, like they are paid in forms of millions. So if 5 people will go as a delegate, you expect 10 million to be lost during the journey overseas. What about the president himself? I believe more than that, because if we look at normal institutions, the leader of the institution normally takes more allowance than the common person, and sometimes the allowance goes like times 4 the amount that the normal person would get. So I'm imagining if most times the president goes for these ventures instead of the ambassadors or the ministers, it means we are spending a lot on travel. And we've seen this is one of the administrations that has had a lot of travels for the president ever, until they had to call him El Safari. All right, if you remember, you know. All right, now let's get to something more. But the reality is that there's a lot of wastage of money, because even today there are some people who are discussing and talking about this money that's being dashed around in forms of what we call empowerment. And the reality is that that money is being used to make people feel like the government is doing its best. And if you check around, you realize that anybody who has been able to step in government and get an opportunity, they have already looted enough and they're raising houses and all that. So what is the future of Kenya anyway? What is the future? Now I'm just imagining after 2 terms what will happen, you know. And I'm trying to remember what Gloria Oroba was saying on Obina's show. He was saying that most times the government, you know, gives promises to the citizens and goes about doing projects they don't want because they just have to be relevant, you know. They just have to use it as a platform to persuade and prove to people that they can work. But the reality is that they are not interested in the demands of the people or what exactly they want on the ground. If, for example, within your constituency, what you need is water, they'll not bring water. Instead, they'll bring a market, and then they'll use that as a bait and start promising you that soon water is coming. And once you are fool enough to know that, to believe that something is being done, then they are going to get their way into 2027. All right? So that is the danger, and many people don't understand these things. If only they knew that there is always what we call manipulation. You know, manipulation is when you fool people, make them believe that you are for them or you are with them. And once they are fooled, then you get your way. The scheming way, manipulative way. And that is how most people that don't want to really perform do. They'll fool you, they'll even give you some little money, the way they are dashing out 10,000 shillings in the State House every day. And once people are fooled and believe that there is more to be eaten, something will be done. Now, Kenyans have to be wise enough, ask themselves where this money is coming from. And I'm so happy that with this guy who was asking and saying that he's planning to use his to feed the street children. And I'm like, if many people are like that, then it will be how wonderful. So let's get to it. There is more that has come out with Rigathi announcing Muhisa Kitui, right, as the opposition spokesperson. Now you realize that the mathematics of the Luhya nation are becoming an expansion for the opposition. So we could listen to this a little bit and see what we have to gather here. Okay. I want you to look at this. The opposition has appointed Honorable Dr. Muhisa Kitui as their spokesman and the head of opposition secretariat. All right? That is a message that came from Rigathi Gachagua. Okay.
As their spokesperson and the head of the opposition secretary on behalf. Very, very disappointed with my neighbor, my friend, his own voters. So just to put things into context, disappointed with my neighbor, my friend, my brother, Senator Gataya. Senator Gataya, you owe those children and their teachers an apology. The Speaker, when you called me to invite and welcome the students, Senator Gataya spoke from his chair in Kiswahili and he said, wako na njaa sana. Mr. Speaker, as a Senate, we can never sing that low. It doesn't matter what the students and their teachers are going through, is with their God. You cannot profile a community through an attack to students who have chosen to visit the Senate of the Republic of Kenya.
All right, so that is a reference to how actually one leader referred to the students as being so thirsty or angry. That's a demeaning statement anyway. And of course, we've had this statement on different platforms, including Gloria Oroba and all that, all right? And what does that mean? It simply means that the opposition is gaining leeway, okay? And let's just check to this. Yeah, the reality is that when you check Mbeere North from the polls, UDA and ODM are losing it on Mbeere North, okay? And of course, there is a different aspect that is coming out. Now, there is a ruthless Uhuru deal, ruthless, way in which Uhuru has actually handled Kindiki. If you're not aware about it, let's check on this. Yeah. So, of course, very many people are considering Kindiki as a failure, especially when he replaced Gachagua, the man who calls himself the truthful man. And he began to expose the government, then he was actually exposed. Now, of course, people would have trusted the narrative of the government if the recent turn of events did not come up. Like the issue of corruption, if it did not become something that the president had talked about it and accepted that there is a lot of extortion happening in the government, and then now we begin to say you are the master of them all, then why are you complaining? Why can't you tell us and deal with these people instead of complaining? Okay, so we realized that indeed Kindiki got used and he accepted it. And even now when he talks about Gachagua, nobody will listen to him at all. So many people are like, he should go home. That is what many think. Because they think that if justice to humanity has to be addressed, then the current regime is not doing its best. And of course, many people have seen from the Shah to other educational aspects and to many other policies that are happening currently. Let's just listen to this. Let's listen to this before we can make an understanding of what I'm talking about.
Today, I stand here paraded before the whole nation, accused of misdeeds whose particulars have never been brought to my attention until now. Despite me consistently asking for them. There can only be two reasons for this. The first is that the trumped-up charges against me are baseless, and that my case is a fait accompli, and therefore I must be removed from office by all means whatsoever, even by unconstitutional means. Mr. Speaker, how I wish this, with the haste in which it has been convened, was meant to discuss the plight of the millions of our people across the country who are living in dire need and abject poverty. I bow in shame to note that we are here today for such an elitist powered by petty, divisive, and vindictive politics, as the country hurts from the lethal combination of a near-collapsed economy, a ravaging pandemic, floods, and a rare invasion of desert locusts, not seen in this country for decades. I am ashamed discussing.
All right, guys. So we were proceeding before I had a network issue, but remember, Kindiki was actually thrown out of Uhuru's government, and I think he was just waiting upon a moment in Ruto's government. And when he was called upon, you remember the swearing moment, I really remember that. He was so excited to become part of the team. But so far, you don't see what he actually gained out of all his, he had to get, okay? So he has earned, all he has earned is humiliation and names such as Soprano, Kamama, and many other demeaning ones, okay? And people are like, we used to think Professor is clever. You know, when people hear the name Professor, they believe that this is someone who is actually outstanding. But it has been a shame because Kindiki is there backing up everything that the government is doing because he knows that he went in as a replacement to a brother, all right? And he has no way to go back because how will he go back? And where will he go back to? Anyway, let's get to what Ndura Wariungi is sharing about the Jubaland forces. Let's listen to this.
For more than a week, the presence of Jubaland forces inside Kenya has sparked a storm of questions. The invasion can no longer be brushed aside, and now the internet is buzzing with one central puzzle. Who truly commands the Somalia militia? Is it Kenya or Somalia? To cut through the noise, we turned to Ndura Waruingi, speaking from the UK, and he didn't hold back. According to him, the story of Jubaland's troop in Kenya is far more complex than most imagine. Waruingi lays out how the forces crossed into Kenya, how Nairobi's government has quietly collaborated with them, and why Kenya has no intentions of pushing them out of the country. Even more explosive.
Territory ni kusecure territory because ya kuleta vitu vile wanaleta wa biashara hawa kwao. Number one. Number two, kwa serikali ya Kenya, we have been all trying as open elections. Why tumekuwa na crisis after crisis, crisis after crisis, because they want that instability. The Kenyan government, they want that instability. The government, they want to do this. Sijui Amonyoro is doing this. Sijui Amonyoro and all these stories are well calculated to make sure that there will be no election in Kenya. Ni mipangilio kwa upande ya Kenya, ni mipangilio ya kuhakikisha tumepanga kila kitu imeingia venye hakutakuwa na election, because when you have one part of the country that is under war, under siege, it means Kenya cannot go into election when there is no stability, complete stability and security. So this one thing is one of the many things that Ruto is trying to do to make sure that he succeeds in postponing the election. Because for them, for now, they are not ready for election. They know if they go for the election, they will fail. Therefore, they are doing everything possible. Ndio wameona wameshika watoto, wamepiga watoto, ndio kusemekane watu watoke nje wapige manduru, kusemekane serikali ilikuwa inataka kupinduliwa, ndio kuwe na reason ya kufanya kitu. Number two, kuna goons ambazo wameinuka. Hizi goons, some of them are trained. They are not ordinary people. They are just trained people. Ni watu walikuwa kwa army, ni watu walikuwa kwa nini. Juzi nilikwambia ile historia ya jamaa walikuwa former KDF. Hao walishikwa tena wakaachiliwa. Unakumbuka?
Yeah, nakumbuka.
Sorry ulifanya.
Ya kina Patrick Osoi.
Kuna jina wanajiita
the FBI.
Yeah,
fighting brutality.
FBI si ati ni kitu ambayo serikali hawajui. It's the same as the goons ambao mnasema goons. Lakini na katika mpango mkubwa ambao wako nao tukisemekana kuko na insecurity. Kuna watu wamepanga njama ya kupindua serikali. Kuna watu wamefanya nini? It is a bigger and larger plan to make sure that these people doesn't get out of power. So when postpone. Remember, wameanza tena ka story ka constitution. Ati kutakuwa na mazungumzo ya constitution, kutakuwa na kitu inaitwa kubadilisha constitution, and anytime kutakuwa na mazungumzo ya kubadilisha constitution na kupitisha constitution itabadilishwa, it means kutakuwa na postponement. Kule na Naivasha, kule Nyeri, kule Mwea, and ukiangalia kuna siku hiyo kuna kesi ya mtu ilidropiwa na siku hiyo.
All right. Meanwhile, I hope you're aware about the cases that were actually in pending over Waluke, and there was also this guy, over corruption. And so far, they have been pursued, and these people have been fined a very hefty, they are supposed to pay a very hefty fine, okay, in relation to the recent outcome. Now, I hope you've heard what Ndura Warunge is exposing here. And I don't know what is your thought. You can type in the comment section if you have a different view or what your view is, so that we're gonna get to the root of the aspects. But it's good to actually understand what's happening. So many people disregard political analysis and they don't want anything to do with it because they feel it's a headache. However, getting such information is very critical, because once you understand what's happening, then you get to the root of what should happen. Just give me some few minutes. All right. So we can pick up and talk about this. So what do you think about Waringe? Waringe is sharing and telling us that the Jubaland forces, the reason why they are not being pushed away, it's a kind of, a ladder, or rather a cloud. For politicians, we normally talk about, not politicians, but influencers and possibly many other people who maybe create content, all that. They say they are cloud chasing. Okay, what about the politicians? And when you sit down and understand, because I was asking myself, how comes the Jubaland forces are invading and nobody wants them to push them away. Okay. But now I'm trying to understand. I don't know whether you've got what Waryungi is saying, that this is a diversion story and it has been happening. It has been happening. So if this has been happening from generation to generation, now it has come to the worst, because now I'm trying to look at the turn of events and I'm like, so even the FBI group was a kind of, I can't just imagine, like when you talk about the war drums at the Kenya borders, it is something to raise the alarm so that it makes Kenyans believe that there is something quite insecure. And therefore, it turns out that it may be impossible, very impossible for, for anyone to imagine that there is peace that would lead to an election. And I'm like, hey, that's a foul play. A foul play that would lead to our economic downfall more than what we are. For how long will we suffer anyway? Away from that, let's get to other stories before we run to Jamaica. Jamaica Holiness having been elected. Yeah? Holiness in Jamaica. Wagwan, guys. So before we get back to Holiness, let's continue with Kenya's story. There is one more thing or two I wanted to discuss on Kenya before now I could go to Jamaica. Okay? So yesterday I remember we talked about Ogola. Now today there's something about Gachagua, Matiang, and Gachagua, Kalonzo, and Matiang. 2027 plan. They have decided to choose Muhisa Kitui for the campaigns in 2027. And I think you've seen, I've already talked about it, but I just want to expand something on that, And Muhisa Kitui is one of the smartest people and strategic in among the Luya people. Okay? And I think many people have felt like it's a good move. London is burning. And people are like, one time, Ontario, Canada. All right? So Muhisa is someone that is smart and can deliver. He served in former governments, even though somebody here gave a comment and said that Kenya can only do well if they avoid the old. But there is a strategy that has to be used here, okay? And if only the Luyas are going to vote as a bloc, which I don't know, and Mount Kenya also as a bloc, which I don't know, and East as a bloc, then the job will be done. But how possible is that? How possible is that? Because I saw something on Nafula Shalin's YouTube, and she was talking about the Kenyans in the USA are tribal and divided. And I was like, what are you talking about? I thought when you are far from home, then you are united. Okay? But let's say this. Let's say this somewhere in a video to actually clarify what I'm talking about here. Do I have a video here?
That's 2 videos. I opined. And
Not a video really, but a picture. Let's look at this. What do you see? Okay, so it has finally been leaked that Muhisa Kitui is joining Kalonzo, Gachagua, and Matiang in their forces. And I hope, there's a lot of propaganda again in this politics, and it was being indicated that there's high possibility that Matiang may join Uhuru, and I'm like, what the hell is that? Okay, so seeing that today, the story has come out as a different one. Okay, It has come out as a different one. And if you listen to Lemakwinye, you actually realize that his analysis indicates that the turn of events may be very positive for Gachagua and the team, okay? And being strategic as DCP party. But then the question is, do we have to trust Gachagua? You have the answer. If he has revealed a lot that the government was doing, can he be too dangerous or can he be very good for Kenya? That's something I'll let you answer, okay? That's something I'll let you answer as we go by in other aspects. There's something I saw here, but I don't want to talk about it. I think we should go to the aspect of Holiness, all right? So guys, why do you think Holiness won in elections? Okay? Yeah. Why do you think Holiness won in elections in Jamaica? Wagwan, guys. I hope you're fine. So the elections just ended yesterday in Jamaica. And of course, we saw it coming. In many of the analysis we've done about the Jamaican politics, we were saying that Holiness will do it. Holiness will make it. And I was looking at what he has done for Jamaica. You know, a leader is about what they do. That's what I believe. If only citizens vote for people based on what they do, then the world will change. Because, I don't know, I want us to look at some videos here for Jamaica, and you will realize that the breaking news yesterday, or rather at the end of the day, after weeks of tension, bribes, scandals, you know, fake promises, people have spoken, and the winner becomes, drum roll, Holiness, all right? So, you realize that Holiness did not do a lot of campaigns. While people were campaigning, he was going about showing the projects. I remember when I watched this video about policing, Holiness was there showing what the police are doing. When they came to the buses, he went around showing what the value of the buses will be. And he's been even there to show housing, right? So guys, if you watch the videos from Jamaica, that's what you'll see. So exactly, money cannot exchange hands in all places and win, you know. So it's not necessary that when you receive money from politicians, you have to vote for them. That's not necessary. And we can copy the example of Jamaica and actually establish that it's about the leadership and not the leader. What kind of leadership are we receiving? Are we getting the packages that will make us better or something that will make us worse? Now, we realize that free soda, free chapati is not the solution to anything, okay? It's possible that Holiness was praying, but at the same time, he decided to trend in heaven. What do I mean by this? I mean that instead of taking pleasure, he decided to invest in actions, okay? The biggest billboards and the loudest slogans do not work. All that works is your actions. Especially if you have been a former leader, what you have to check is what have you done for the nation? Simple. Okay? Promising people jobs, promising people opportunities and not delivering is not the solution. Okay? That's just like a hangover. Yeah? So Holiness gave peace and people realized peace doesn't need Wi-Fi. Does it? And it never runs out of battery. It's like a phone that is charged fully. So Holiness finally got it and will be sworn as the permanent winner because no one can impeach peace of mind, right? Even Temptation applied for deputy president, but was disqualified at the gate. Can you imagine that? Hey, imagine that. So let's look at some videos. I want us to check on some videos to see what happened in Jamaica. Jamaica. Yeah, so after victory, remember Holiness stood out and said, in our second term, we created a momentum. We are on the right path, heading in the right direction with the right trajectory. That should not be broken, and Jamaica people share that view, and therefore we will continue to use the momentum to accelerate the development of our country. The JLP rode to victory after the strong performance during their previous 2 terms, okay? So it's all about performance. If a leader can perform, I wish this should be Kenyan way. If the leader can perform, that is what we care about. But if a leader will give false promises, then begin calling people and giving them tips, I don't think that's the right thing. You know? For example, we should be looking at our GDP. And let's not go for figures which are a lie. Let's use an external body to tell us this GDP growth, for example. Let them tell us about policing, what improvements have they made, you know, in education, health, and all those places. We put a spotlight on the concerns that really affect us. Let's look at corruption, for example, integrity, yeah, the incomes, the assets, okay? So there is a time Holiness was actually under scrutiny, and they put a spotlight on him because they were raising national anti-corruption questions. But with investigations, it was clearly found that he is not in any wrongdoing, yeah? And he had to gain permission from the Supreme Court to challenge the report that had been branded on him unlawfully as unfair one, actually. And so there was no corruption, no charges at the end of the day. And he began to focus on what he has to do for the people, okay? And victory has come without default. He has not had to struggle a lot. If we look at it, even though Golding came in as an underdog, he has exceeded expectations and is expected to gain 15 seats. That's what we are told in 2020. But then, he has considered defeat finally and said that it's his duty as a believer in democracy to acknowledge and concede the result and congratulate the opponent, JLP. So PNP has lost it. Jamaica's democracy is very important, and it has to be cherished. That is one thing that every country must know. Now we are waiting upon 3 other countries that are going to have election, 3 or 4. Cameroon, we are having Tanzania, Uganda. Which other country? Cameroon, Cote d'Ivoire, Uganda, Tanzania. I don't know whether they'll practice, democracy. When some candidates were already being pulled out from the seats, they are not allowed even to vie, just because I don't know of what and what, The fear to have democracy is a great problem for some of the countries, especially Uganda and Tanzania, right? And even the Cameroon and Cote d'Ivoire. So many people have lost their lives, and the leaders don't give a damn about it. Anyway, let's look at this win here, over here. Let's look at some video here. I hope there'll be no strike. Jamaican videos, I'm told a lot of them caused the strike. So let's see how JLP's leader was so happy here. He was so happy.
I wouldn't be surprised if Bustamante rang this bell. But I carry the symbol of the party today because it is such a historic moment that this is a victory for our founder Bustamante, for Sir Donald Stan's Club, for Hugh Shearer, for Edward Phillips George Tiago, for Bruce Golding, and I want to invite Mrs. Carla Tiago to just come and acknowledge the moment and take a bow to the crowd, because all of this
Yeah, so it was such a great moment for Holiness when he was re-elected, not easy, right? And so simple it is.
will continue fulfill.
So he promised that he will continue to fulfill, and just by looking at what he has done, I believe that indeed he will deliver, because Holiness has never let down his people. When you've been watching, if you've been closely watching the Jamaican news, you actually understand what I'm talking about here, you know. Yeah, so that is much about Jamaica. Let's see how the opposition leader also appreciated his failure. And that's how simple things are in Jamaica. You wonder about Kenya sometimes. You don't know what happens after elections and even before and during, you know. A lot of mixture, you know. A lot of mixture. I hope we learn from Jamaica, guys. I hope we learn from Jamaica. Let's listen to him.
All the comrades on the platform, all the comrades in the audience, all the people of Jamaica who are listening, watching. First of all, I think it's my duty as a believer in democracy to acknowledge and concede the result and to congratulate our opponents, Jamaica Labour Party, for their victory tonight. Jamaica's democracy is important and we must cherish it. Sometimes it brings bitter disappointments. Sometimes those disappointments are laced with a tinge of a sense that not all is fair and just. The hot sun lining up to vote for sometimes hours, and it should not be that way. We should do better, and we have to do better. I must tell you that I'm proud of the platform that we put forward for the people of Jamaica.
Oh my God.
It was a
Yeah, so that is it. That is it. Okay. That is it. So we're coming to the end of our discussion. We've taken almost 47 minutes. We didn't take 1 hour because I was focusing to talk about Jamaica, and we've talked about it. And of course, you understand that Holiness did not just randomly win. He worked for it. And you saw the you know, during the time JLP were seeking votes, young people were really supporting their party because of how they have worked and their policies and the strategies they had. All right? So it was not something that was unpredicted. And how I wish that this should be the situation in any other country, so that we should have a transparent process whereby when people expect somebody to win, they win, because there's no way polls can lie. Most times polls don't lie. But the crafty businesses that go on in countries, sometimes it causes a lot of problems to us, right? Okay, so you've heard about Kenyan situations, you've heard about Jamaica. So have a good night. Let's meet again another time in more analysis. Bye-bye.